Hey, what is up guys, and welcome back to Predatory Exotics. We are into the spring now in sort of late March, so we're going to be starting off the breeding season, and in today's video we're going to be focusing on Samboas. We have a couple different species of Samboas. We have the more commonly known Kenyan Samboa, in which we have a larger female that is ready to breed, and we've got some males which have different options, so I won't spoil it early on in the video, you'll find that out a bit later. And we also have some less commonly known Tartar Samboas. Were around in the hobby quite a few years ago. Luckily we picked these up from Doncaster in November. We got a 4-year-old adult male and female. Obviously the sexual dimorphism in this species, the female is a lot larger than the male, and they produce less babies than the Kenyan Samboa. We're looking at sort of 10 to 12 babies if the breeding is successful, whereas Kenyans can lay up to, I think the record's something like 44, but that would be a fully grown female Kenyan Samboa. Our one is sort of 2.5 foot, it could get another half a foot on it, so it's not going to have the maximum amount of babies, but still hopefully we'll get quite a few. So we'll get into the breeding. We're going to be putting the males in with the females. Cleaned all the tanks out a couple of days ago so that they were nice and clean, ready to have the snakes in. They also got fed a few days ago, so they've had a couple of days to digest the food so that we're not picking them up and moving them and stressing them out, causing them to regurgitate. So we're going to put them in. Obviously we've never done any snake breeding before, so it'll be the first time here at Predatory Exotics. So hopefully we don't get any incidences of the female eating the male. Obviously the male is sort of half the size of the female, so the female could quite easily eat them. Kenyan Samboas aren't known to be snake eaters, but that is always a risk when you're putting in a smaller male with a larger female. So without further ado, I'll get into showing you the pairings now. We'll take a close-up look at the male and the female, and then we'll put them in. Obviously it could take a while for them to lock up, so we're just going to film putting them in. Obviously check that nothing bad is happening. It's quite a sunny week here, so it's not the best for breeding. You really want to do it when there's a storm about to hit, because the sort of barometric pressures that the storm causes for some reason makes everything breed. So hopefully we'll put this in for a few weeks. Obviously we'll take them out, feed them, leave it a couple of days, put them back in, leave it a couple of days, take them out, feed them, and we'll do that for sort of a month or so and hopefully get a decent lock, and hopefully we'll get to see a lock as well. But enough waffling from me, let's get into seeing the snakes. So up first we have our large female Tartar Samboa. Looks a lot different to a Kenyan. Obviously the Kenyan is orange and brown, whereas this one is a lot of browns and then the black spotting. Big thing that's different with these ones, on the back end, the tail doesn't have those keeled scales that the Kenyan Samboa has, and I think it looks a lot more like the head. They look very similar, just so you can't tell. Obviously this is quite big, this is about 3 foot. They can get up to 4 foot, the Tartar Samboas. They are one of the larger species of Samboas, and obviously when you see in a minute, the male is a lot different, a lot smaller, and has slightly different coloration as well. So I'll get him out in a second. I'll put her back in the enclosure ready for when we add that male. But she's looking nice and healthy, nice and plump as well. She's been smashing food, so hopefully that is a sign of her sort of building those follicles ready to breed. So I'll go grab the male now. So here is the male Tartar Samboa. Obviously a lot different size, very small, and he's not been eating for a couple of weeks, which is a sign that he's sort of coming into the breeding season not wanting to eat, focusing more on reproducing and spreading his genes. Obviously a lot smaller, similar sort of pattern and coloration, but I don't know if the camera picks it up, but he does have some more sort of orangey, where that light brown is, sort of orangey coloration. Not sure if that's normal. We've never kept Tartar Samboas other than these two, but hopefully 4 years old is a good time. The longer you wait, really the better it is. You're putting less stress on the animals trying to produce them when they're only a few years old, and they should lay a lot more babies as well, because they've had longer to sort of make their whole sort of system better. I don't know how to explain that really, but they hopefully will breed very nicely. So I'm going to get the female back out in a minute, left the tank open. Put them both in, because don't want to sort of put him in when she's in sort of food mode, hiding under the substrate. So we'll put him in and check on them, because hopefully it doesn't go wrong. So I'll put this in front of the tank, put them both back in, and then we'll watch and see what happens, and fingers crossed we don't have any mishaps. So we're going to try and do this at the same time. Going to see what happens. We're going to put the female in on this side. And then we'll put the male in as well. Obviously you can see that sort of difference in size is pretty dramatic. He's in the water bowl, but we will close this so they don't escape, and you can see how different the size is right now. Pretty crazy to think that this is both the same age animal. They're both 4 years old, so it's pretty crazy to see that they were born pretty much at the same time within the same year, and the fact that they're completely different. They're both really still at the moment, not sure if they know each other's in there. The female is heading back round. Don't know if she will smell the male. The male looks like he's frozen still at the moment. Female seems to be going about normal once you put her back in. These aren't as sort of fossorial as normal sandboas. So your Kenyan sandboas are literally going to go straight back under the substrate. The males might spend a little bit of time on top, but she spends a lot of time out the top. And then the male basically never buries. You should see his sawdust. He basically pushes it all down, almost makes it solid, because he doesn't really go under. But she seems to be cruising around the outside. And the male doesn't seem to really know what to do with himself at the moment. So we'll leave them in here. Hopefully nothing will go wrong. I'll leave the camera set up just in case something happens. And then I might put a time lapse if something happens. But if not, the next thing you see is me, then nothing really happened. So it's been a couple hours now. Actually, there's been some positive signs. Seen him sort of following the scent trails of her. They were sort of close to each other, touching, and we stepped out of the room. Ollie stepped in and he saw a bit of action, so we're hoping that something's going on. It's obviously all positive signs, no aggression, so they'll stay in there for sort of 2-3 days, then they'll come out, feed. We'll leave them a couple of days to digest, then they'll go back in there for a couple of days. But so far so good. If that's the first sign, that's really good. Obviously it's not even the evening. From the research I've done, the main sort of hours for copulation are anything between 8 PM and then sort of 3 AM. That sort of first part of the night is when they're most active. So obviously we're not going to really see any locks, especially sandboas. It's going to be underground. So without further ado, let's go on to the next pairing, which is going to be our Kenyan sandboas, and we're starting to look at the morph. So I'll get the female out now. So this is our female Kenyan samboa. You can see she is the classic wild type, which is this orange and brown coloration, which is an awesome samboa colour as it is, but she's actually heterozygous for a couple genes. So she's heterozygous for snow, which is a combination of albino and anuthristic. So she could produce albinos and anaries or anuthristics as well, which would be cool, or she can produce a snow, which is a combo of both. She's obviously slightly smaller species than the Tartar samboa. They have these keeled scales on the bottom half, which is a really cool addition and something that makes the Kenyan samboa a lot cooler. So this is an awesome species of samboa, and I'm going to show you the male now, which looks a little bit different. And this is the male we're going to be breeding to her. Obviously you can see a little bit smaller. Obviously males with pretty much all samboas are smaller. That's the sexual dimorphism. The female is always larger. But you can see this one looks a bit different. It isn't the orange and brown. It's this sort of greys and whites and blacks. That's because it's axanthic or anuthristic, which basically means all the yellow and red pigment is gone, so the orange is gone in this case for the Kenyan samboa, and it just leaves the darker melanistic or melanin in the skin. So that's why you get this darker coloured samboa. Obviously This one as well, I believe, is het for albino. So it'd be a long shot to produce an albino from this pairing, but they both have the genes, so it's possible. More likely to get normals and anutheristics, so hopefully get them, but it is possible to get the snow. If you want me to do a specific video on Samba genetics, I will do that, because it can get a little bit complicated once you add the genes together. And I'll talk about some of the other genes we plan on getting, and then I won't confuse you, because we do have a Rooskin Samba which you can breed, and you get different morphs from that, but he isn't ready to breed this year. He's still a little bit small, but hopefully next year he'll be ready and we can produce some really cool morphs. But I will explain that in a different video, and for now, let's get these two together, and hopefully it goes as good as the Tartars for now. So we're going to be putting in this beautiful female Kenyan Samba. This is her tub that she lives in. Looks quite basic, but Kenyan Sambas, as opposed to the Tartars, are a lot more fossorial, just from what I've found. She's jabbing me with her tail. But we'll put her in. She'll probably bury straight away, or not. And then if we get the male as well, we'll add him to this side, and we'll let them find each other on their own. You can see the contrasting colours there, so hopefully we do get a mix of morphs from this, and hopefully, because the male hasn't been eaten, a bit like the other male, hopefully they do go into breeding mode and we get some babies. Obviously these are live bearing snakes, both the species of Tartar, this Tartar Samba and the Kenyan Samba. So they don't lay eggs, so unlike having a quick egg within like a month or two and then you wait for the egg to hatch, it all happens in one, so it takes about 4 months or so. So probably not going to know till sort of July, August until this has worked, but obviously we're going to do this for about a month, and then we'll see if they hatch. So I'll leave him to sort of go around, because this is a new enclosure for him and it'll have lots of new smells. We'll leave him, and hopefully, fingers crossed, it goes good. So that is our 2 pairs of Samboas in. Obviously we do have some other Samboas, so if we don't happen to see some copulation with the Kenyan Samboas, we do have a couple backups, and we've got a normal male, and then our Roostkins and albino probably aren't old enough to breed, because they're not sort of, you want to wait sort of 3-4 years, you want to wait as long as you possibly can. Just be patient until you can get those males in, because it is worth waiting, because you do get healthier babies and you get a better clutch at the end of it. But for now, that is the whole video. Obviously you're going to be updated as soon as anything happens. We're going to bring out future videos on all the breeding projects we have here, with the geckos, skinks, the snakes. We've got tons of breeding projects lined up for this breeding season, and hopefully, fingers crossed, they all go okay. But for now, that's the end of the video. Please comment down below if you want me to do that Kenyan Samba morph guide. I think that'd be really interesting for people, especially as we have quite a few of the different morphs available and a couple of different species as well. Hope you have a lovely day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye guys.